So today, I'm going to be listing the top 20 greatest warriors in all of A Song and Ice and Fire. And so it's including books and lore, not just the TV show. In the lore of Game of Thrones, there are dozens and dozens of fighters who are renowned for their skill, their prowess, strength, and or fearlessness while in combat. But I think I have honed in on a top 20. However, I do believe I could make like a part 2 to this because there's a lot of guys out there who are just renowned for their skill. um, and also, this list will kind of contradict my last ranking Game of Thrones video because that one's just following the show Game of Thrones, while this one is following like everything. And it also won't be in any particular order, as I find it hard to rank people who haven't fought each other before, like Sandor Clegane and Robert Baratheon in his prime, or Arthur Dayne and Damon Blackfyre. So, with all that out of the way, let's get started. So starting my list off is Rhaegar Targaryen. While he didn't like killing, or even fighting for that matter, he truly believed for a time that he was Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised, and to be able to defend the realm from the threat in the north. He felt like he had to be better than just a competent or formidable swordsman. So he received the best training in Westeros, and at the age of 17, he was knighted. He became a highly skilled warrior with a sword and a lance, and while he rarely partook in these, when he did list himself into tourneys, he always distinguished himself to be well at jousting. He actually won the tourney that happened right before Robert's Rebellion, beating Barristan Selmy and even Sir Arthur Dayne. He also had a great fight with an enraged Robert Baratheon at the Battle of the Trident, although Robert's rage was too much for him and he did die. Victorian Greyjoy. He was a large and just physically powerful man, fierce warrior, and was absolutely fearless. So fearless, in fact, that he's stupid. George R.R. Martin called him dumb as a stump, but to be fair, that's just gonna make him braver. He was proficient with long swords, but preferred his fearsome steel axe with a shield. This, plus his full plate armor, meant he was built like a tank. He beat 4 grown men with his bare hands. He also killed Sir Talbot Seri, who was described as being skilled and quick. He was also a capable commander and was Lord Captain of the Iron Fleet. While he is probably the best fighter to come from the Iron Islands, he never faced anyone with real credible skill and experience. Aemon Targaryen, the Dragon Knight. He became a great jouster and swordsman, and some even consider him to be the most noblest knight to have ever lived. He was such an accomplished swordsman that he was allowed to wield the Valyrian steel sword Dark Sister, and he joined the Kingsguard at just 17, eventually rising to Lord Commander. He bested a great Dornish champion in a duel, bested Sir Margil Hastewick in a trial by combat, and won several tourneys in his life. He also matched Cregan Stark, who Aemon said that he was the finest swordsman he had ever faced. His skill with the sword has legendary status in the Seven Kingdoms, and if you gain the title Dragon Knight, you have to be really good at what you do. Sir Duncan the Tall. Standing at 6'11", Sir Duncan was a towering man, and was described as strong and quick. He was trained with a sword and a lance, but he was even better with an axe or a mace. He was also a skilled wrestler and brawler due to his poor upbringing in Fleet Bottom, as he literally had to fight every day of his life. He was eventually knighted and later became the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard for King Aegon V Targaryen. He bested Aerion Targaryen in a trial by combat, killed Sir Lucas Longinch in a fight, killed Sir Tomard Heddle, killed Damon III Blackfyre, and most impressively, he beat Lord Lionel Baratheon in a trial by combat as well. His towering size did give him an advantage, but his skill is also not to be undervalued or underestimated. Robert Baratheon. The guy we saw in the show in the main series was the product of a man who had given into the desires of being the king for like 15, 16 years. He became a fat drunkard. But before that, he was a strong, fierce warrior who was built like an ox and was just as strong. He was brave, proud, fearless, and never backed down from a fight. He was also headstrong, rash, impatient, and angered quickly. He was known for his great antlered helmet, and his weapon was his spiked iron warhammer. His one true love, outside of Lyanna Stark, was anything involving killing something, from war to hunting. He also had a deep, unbridled rage against anything Targaryen. He led his rebellion and ended the Targaryen dynasty when he infamously killed Rhaegar Targaryen at the Trident. He did that with one hard blow to Rhaegar's chest, shattering every ruby in his chestplate. He also successfully beat back the Greyjoy rebellion about 10 years before the main series had started. Damon Targaryen. Damon was a renowned warrior skilled in the joust, hunting, and swordplay. He wielded the Valyrian steel sword Dark Sister, and he was the most experienced warrior of his time. For a time, he was the commander of the City Watch, aka the Gold Cloaks in King's Landing, and during his time leading them, it's said that the City Watch was the most effective it had ever been. He was even knighted at just the age of 16. He killed several pirates despite being hit with several arrows, and then he killed Craghis Drahar, who was a dangerous pirate leader. He straight up decapitated Vaemon Velaryon, matched Sir Criston Cole in tourneys, and he and his dragon Syrax bested Aemon Targaryen and his massive dragon Vhagar in the battle above the God's Eye. But in the end, they all ended up dying when they fell to the ground. He was a renowned warrior for his time, but he was also rash and quick to anger, which sometimes led to his defeat in times. Like Criston Cole did beat him in those tourneys, so it can happen. Sir Loras Tyrell, also known as the Knight of Flowers. Sir Loras Tyrell was an incredibly skilled knight and jouster. He found a lot of success in tourneys against guys like Gregor and Sandor Clegane, and even Jaime Lannister. Honestly, he's just like a younger Jaime Lannister. He's a capable warrior using axes, lances, maces, and swords. According to George R.R. Martin, a case can be made that Loras was the greatest swordsman in his time. At just 15, he was knighted. Renly Baratheon chose him to lead his vanguard into battle instead of Lord Randall Tarly, Sir Gyard Morrigan, and other seasoned knights and lords. He killed 2 knights of Renly's Rainbow Guard with ease and even went toe-to-toe with Brienne of Tarth. It's also said at the Battle of Blackwater Bay, he fought magnificently. Sandor Clegane. The Hound was one of the most feared, fierce, skilled, and dangerous warriors in Westeros who enjoyed legally killing people, whether it was as a soldier, a hunter, or a bodyguard. He gutted his first victim when he was just 12 years old, and he's been doing it ever since. While in battle, he shows absolute no mercy, no remorse, and is really known for his brutality, which is why he's feared. He was King Joffrey's sworn shield and fought in the Battle of Blackwater Bay against Stannis and his forces. Really, he led King's Landing's forces until he chickened out, but it happens, Fire, it's scary. He had a great fight with Brienne while tired. While he did lose eventually, he was exhausted, more so than Brienne. He also matched or bested his brother Gregor Clegane, aka the Mountain. He was larger, stronger, and borderline psychotic, and was probably more feared than Sandor was. He also bested Lord Beric, who was exploiting Sandor's fear of fire with his fire sword. Next, Gregor Clegane. The Mountain wasn't necessarily a skilled swordsman. However, he was almost an unstoppable force and was widely feared across the Seven Kingdoms for his size and his physical power and brutality and just being a psychopath, really. Only the best and the most confident fighters like Oberyn and his brother Sandor Clegane could best him in combat. Even Sir Bronn wasn't confident with his chances in a fight against him. His style of fighting focuses on monstrous strength and brutality, and he was widely known for it across Westeros. He was also known for his 6-foot long sword that he used as his primary weapon. He matched or held the upper hand over his brother Sandor Clegane, and he was able to best and kill Prince Oberyn in a trial by combat, who was one of the best overall warriors in the entire world. I'll get to him later. Granted, Oberyn was more concerned with getting a confession out of him instead of killing him, and as the only reason Gregor Clegane won was because Oberyn let his guard down and assumed he had everything under control. And that's when he crushed his skull. That's what he would do. He wouldn't just use his sword. He would use his bare hands and just gut people. And he's also known for just killing groups of armored guards and knights, literally slicing them in half. He was an absolute unit. Sir Gerald Hightower, the White Bull. Known as the White Bull, he was an established knight from House Hightower and served as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard for King Jaehaerys II and King Aerys II Targaryen, aka the Mad King. He was considered fierce and in his prime would have been stronger than Jaime Lannister in his prime. He fought brilliantly during the War of the Nine Penny Kings and in the Battle of the Bells during Robert's Rebellion. The last thing we know about him is that he died alongside Sir Arthur Dayne and Sir Oswell Whent at the Tower of Joy when they were trying to fight off Lord Eddard Stark and his bannermen. Sir Garland Tyrell, also known as Garland the Gallant, he was a knight of House Tyrell and was one of Loras's older brothers. He was an exceptionally gifted swordsman and even preferred sparring against 3 or 4 men while in training to be better prepared for actual battle. He is a little bit taller and more broadly built than Loras, presumably making him stronger. It's said that he fought even more magnificently than Loras did at the Battle of Blackwater Bay. He led the Tyrell Lannister army's vanguard and even slayed Sir Gyward Morgan, one of Stannis' Baratheon's best knights in single combat. While he seems to be better than his brother Loras, he isn't as well known because he doesn't desire fame like Loras does. Prince Obin Martell. He is one of the most fierce, deadly, and lethal fighters in the world during the main series with a fearsome and notorious reputation. This is why he gained the title of the Red Viper. When he was 16, he defeated Lord Edgar Yernwood in a duel. Later, he traveled to the Free Cities extensively, where he learned much about poisons and combat. He eventually joined the Second Sons for a while before creating his own sellsword company. He also fought in the fighting pits of Meereen, and saying how he lived through them, this means he won every fight he was in. And he held the upper hand over Sir Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, in a trial by combat, and would have won if he had just finished the freaking job. Two things really made him dangerous. The fact that he didn't specialize in just any one weapon, but was skilled in many weapons, which is a common misconception since he used the spear in his fight against Sandor, but he's actually skilled in a wide variety of weapons. And the fact that he always laced his weapons with poison. He truly was one of the most proficient and deadly warriors the world had ever seen. Sir Jaime Lannister. Jaime Lannister was born to be a warrior and a battle commander, as he thrives in both. At 13, he won his first tourney melee. At 15, he was able to fend off the deadly and psychotic Smiling Knight. Shortly after that, he was knighted and joined the Kingsguard for King Aerys II. He was the youngest knight to ever be sworn into the Kingsguard. After slaying the Mad King, he gained the title of Kingslayer, a title he was forced to live with for the rest of his life. He won the tourney that was held as celebration for King Robert and Cersei Lannister's wedding. He held the upper hand against Ned Stark in a brief fight, and even held his own against Brienne of Tarth, despite having his hands shackled together. George R.R. Martin even said that Jaime was one of the best swordsmen and warriors of all time. Not just living at that time, but of all time. And that's just in his prime. And even after losing his hand, he was still a skilled warrior. He learned to be a skilled warrior and an excellent battle commander as well. Sir Criston Cole. He became an exceptionally skilled warrior, especially with a morning star and a long sword. He eventually rose to Lord Commander of the Kingsguard for King Viserys Targaryen. In 104 AC, he won a melee at the tourney of Maidenpool, beating Sir Eric and Eric Cargill of the Kingsguard and even Prince Damon Targaryen while he was wielding Dark Sister. Following this, he became Princess Rhaenyra's sworn shield. He unhorsed Sir Gawain Hightower in a tourney, and in 111 AC, he beat Sir Harwin Strong in melee, which left Harwin with a broken collarbone and a shattered elbow. He became Queen Alicent's sworn shield and trained Prince Aemon Targaryen to be a skilled swordsman. After the Dance of the Dragons truly begun, he became Hand of the King. He killed Sir Oswald Wade and Lords Derry and Root at the God's Eye as well. Sir Barristan the Bold Selmy. He is considered to be the greatest knight of all time, and he's a celebrated hero. He was knighted at just 16 after winning a tourney that also included Prince Duncan and Sir Duncan the Tall. He went on to win several tourneys in his life. He single-handedly fought through and killed several Golden Company sellswords, and then killed Maelys Blackfyre, ending the last Blackfyre rebellion. He joined the Kingsguard at just age 23, and he spent the next 40 years as a member of it. After King Aerys II was kidnapped and held hostage at Duskendale for 6 months, it was Barristan who snuck in and saved him, and no one noticed until after they were leaving on a horse. He killed Sir Simon Toyne, who was a bandit leader, in single combat. Despite serving loyally to the Mad King, after losing at the Trident, Robert Baratheon not only spared him, but named him Lord Commander of his Kingsguard because of his valor and skill in combat. Even at his old age, he won the tourney on Prince Joffrey's name day, unhorsing the Hound. He single-handedly killed several sons of the Harpy and claimed that he could best the rest of the Kingsguard when King Joffrey basically fired him. His name has legendary status comparable to the likes of Sir Arthur Dayne. Lady Brienne of Tarth. She is a massive for a woman, standing at 6'3" and being very muscular. She doesn't quite fit the mold of a typical lady, but that's okay because she doesn't desire to be like that. No, she strives to live up to the ideal of a true knight. Growing up, she received the equivalent of a knight's training by a master-at-arms, Sir Goodwin. At 16, she beat her betrothed, Sir Humphrey Wagstaff, in single combat, ending their betrothal. Yeah, I'd say so. She beat Sir Loras Tyrell, as well as every other knight in Renly Baratheon's Rainbow Guard. Because of this, she joined his Rainbow Guard and became Brienne the Blue. Her fighting style plays to her strengths. While she is a very skilled swordswoman, and with a Morning Star, she also utilizes her size and power to great effect, and has even showed to be a great brawler. She did biss Jaime Lannister, however, he was in shackles, so take that as you will. She also won an epic and brutal fight against the Hound Sandor Clegane. Khal Drogo. Even from an early age, Drogo was an extraordinary gifted warrior, and when he was fully grown, he was tall, muscular, and moved gracefully. Like all Dothraki, he was a savage warrior and invited pain as it was a sign of bravery and toughness. When he became a Khal, he led a Khalazar 40,000 strong, the biggest on the Dothraki Sea. He was also undefeated in combat. Never in his life was he ever beaten, and we know this from his braided hair that went all the way down to his thighs. We did see him best and kill his rival Khal Ogo by ripping out his tongue through his throat. Cregan Stark. Known as the Wolf of the North and later on as the Old Man of the North, Cregan was Lord of Winterfell for decades and even outlived some of his children. Not much is known about his training in his early life, but we know he fought for Queen Rhaenyra and the Blacks during the Dance of the Dragons. We also know he was a superb swordsman because he once sparred against Aemon Targaryen, the Dragon Knight. And he said that Cregan was the finest swordsman he had ever seen. And since I put the Dragon Knight on here earlier, I felt like I had to include him as well. He also briefly served as Hand of the King for the King Aegon III Targaryen, so that's pretty cool. Sir Arthur Dayne. This man has legendary status when it comes to being a skilled swordsman. His house's ancestral sword, Dawn, isn't just given to heirs, only to swordsmen of the house that prove they are worthy of wielding it. And Arthur proved his worth at a very young age, wielding Dawn and gaining the title of Sword of the Morning. He was a member of the Mad King's Kingsguard, and Catelyn Stark said he was the deadliest of all of them. He's regarded as the greatest swordsman of all time by many, even by Ned Stark. It was he who slain the deadly and psychotic Smiling Knight. And then there's the fight at the Tower of Joy. What started as a 7v3, Ned Stark and his Bannermen versus Gerald Hightower, Oswald Went, and Arthur Dayne, quickly turned to a 4v1, Stark and 3 of his Bannermen versus Dayne. And Sir Arthur Dayne went on to kill 2 of his Bannermen and would have killed Ned and Howland Reed if it wasn't for Howland Reed stabbing him in the back of the neck. He was so skilled with a sword that he could even effectively dual-wield long swords. George R.R. Martin said that if Arthur Dayne was wielding Dawn, no one could beat him in a 1v1, not even Barristan Selmy or any other renowned swordsman. However, I believe there is someone who could potentially defeat Sir Arthur Dayne. And that man was Daemon the First Blackfyre, also known as the Black Dragon. He was tall and powerful, with many saying he looked a lot like Aegon the Conqueror. He's considered to be the greatest warrior of all time, as he mastered fighting with every weapon of the battlefield. But when wielding the Valyrian steel sword Blackfyre, he was said to fight like the warrior himself, which is the aspect of the god that the Faith of the Seven believe in. He won his very first tourney at the age of 12. After starting the first Blackfyre Rebellion, it ended at the Red Grass Field. Daemon shattered the lines of Lord Donal Arryn's vanguard. He then dueled with Sir Gawain Corbury. With both of them wielding their Valyrian steel swords, it's said that they fought for nearly an hour before Daemon gained the upper hand. However, it all came to an end when he and his 2 eldest sons were killed in a barrage of arrows raining down on top of them by his half-brother Brandon Rivers and his men. He was never bested in combat. He was killed by a barrage of arrows. No one could best Daemon the First Blackfyre. That's why I believe he could potentially beat Sir Arthur Dayne when he's wielding Dawn. But anyways, that's my list. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Leave a comment of what you thought and hit the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos and all that great stuff. I truly do appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great day. Peace!